Hey, you know, I can tell an awful lot about what kind of a golfer you are and how you make a golf swing just by knowing how high or low you tee the ball. And right after this, I'm going to tell you my secret. Hey, I'm Steve with HitItLonger.com. I'm on a journey to get you longer and straighter down the fairway. So if that's your mission too, would you please consider hitting the subscribe button, like this video at the end if you liked it, and please leave a comment down below. So today we're talking about tee height and what it means for your golf swing and your golf game. Often when I start a lesson, when I'm doing private lessons with golfers, I'll start the lesson and they'll make a remark, hey, that tee's way too high for me. I like it a lot lower than that. It immediately directs my mind. It kind of pins down what I'm going to be looking for. And usually I'm right the first time I see them swing, that they're following the patterns necessary to hit the ball off of a low tee. Because generally when they play it off of a higher tee, these particular groups of golfers, they'll sky it or pop it up, they'll do a lot of bad stuff, and they just are way more comfortable with a low tee. So I've got a fairly low tee on here. You observe that there is not much of the golf ball above the crown here. There might be a quarter of the ball at the most above the crown here. And what I know about you, if you prefer this height of tee or even lower, is I know that you're probably hitting down on the driver with a fairly steep angle of attack. This also tells me that you're probably swinging from the outside, because outside to in swings tend to hit down on the ball more. And I would also be willing to bet you a donut that your swing is also very vertical. So I would guess that right away you line up this way over the top with your shoulders too level, and you pick the club up steeply on the outside like this, so that you're going to come back down and hit the ball without ever skying it. That's generally the pattern. So if you are a low tee aficionado, I want to get you out of that pattern, because that pattern creates nothing but problems in terms of hitting the ball for efficient distance or for hitting it as straight as you would like to either. A low tee also, or finally, a low tee would be the sign of a poorer golfer, while a higher tee is the sign of a much better golfer who drives it farther, plays a draw, his misses are off the toe, where the low tee golfer, I'll bet your misses tend towards the heel. So it's not some trick that I'm doing. I'm not being psychic. I just know from all the lessons that I've taught and the patterns that I've seen that these things often come together in the same basket. Okay, so I'm going to execute a swing here similar to most of the golfers that I see who prefer a very low tee. Let me talk you through it here. First of all, I'm going to put the ball right in the middle of my feet. So I'm going to have the ball positioned way too far back for a driver. Then I'm going to set myself up with my shoulders pointing left and my shoulders too level. You can see my right arm is dominating over my left from your angle. Now I'm going to, because I'm set up this way, it's going to kind of bias me towards swinging to the outside and upwards very steeply. And then I'm just going to let kind of the natural momentum of the swing carry me through from there. So here's the poor setup. Now I'm going to pick the club up. All right, and I just hit a low super duper slice straight into the trees on the right, and which is about what I expected to do. If this is you and this is your pattern, not a lot of distance, you have a slice, you prefer a low tee, this is probably you. Let's check out the highlights of that on the track cam. All right, as expected, I'm going to post the numbers in the screen, in the corner of the screen here. At 89 miles an hour, I was only able to drive the ball 216 yards. So this is pretty close to the average male golfer in the world, as they swing in about that speed and about that distance. So there's really a ton of distance inefficiency there. And of course, I could tell everything you were probably doing just by the height of your tee. So only 216 yards. The ball is 35 yards to the right, so of the center of the fairway. So most places, boy, I'm in the rough, into the trees, maybe even rolling into the next fairway over. I'm in bad shape. You'll see I've hit down on this 7 degrees, and I've hit outside in 5. So I'm really steeply down, steeply outside in and across to make that low tee work for me. I could hit the sweet spot. I mean, I hit the sweet spot. So I got a lot of ball speed out of it, a smash of 1.49. So there's nothing wrong with my hit, but I had a ton of open face and a ton of backspin and not a lot of distance. So let's figure out how to turn this around so that you can hit a lot farther and start preferring a high tee. So I would define a higher tee up as at least 3/4 of the ball is above the crown of the club. In this case, boy, it's possible, I can't get down low enough, but it's possible that the entire ball is above the crown here. So this is a much higher tee. This does not jibe with the swing I just made, where I'm coming steep over my head here and coming down, chopping down and across, because there's a really good chance that I'm gonna crown it off the top of the head of the club, put what we call it an idiot mark on the top of the club, and the ball is going to go straight up and not go for any distance at all, completely missing the club face. I probably still have some slice on it, but maybe not as much. So the adjustments we're going to make are going to start right at address in order to take this tee height and shape our swings and our setups to match it. What I'm going to do instead, I'm going to move the ball now out from the middle of my stance, and I'm going to get it way forward, at least to the big toe of my left foot. And instead of setting up like this with my shoulders pointing, almost down and to the left, I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to get my right shoulder slightly lower than the left by moving my hips and my right knee this way towards the target, creating what we'd call a secondary tilt, therefore dropping the right shoulder just about 2 or 3 inches below the left. And I'm going to square my hips and shoulders back up with the target line. So that would look something like this. Okay. So now I'm pretty square to the target line with my hips and shoulders. And I'm ready to make a swing that'll be shaped a heck of a lot more differently. So the big thing that's going to change in the swing, and now it's going to be easier to do, and you're going to be biased to swing a different way when you set up with the shoulders this way. You're going to be a much greater bias to swing. See, the shoulder squaring up is going to put you more at a bias to swing inside and around your body more in both directions. And the tilt of my right shoulder to put it lower than the left, this way, is going to bias me towards taking it back lower and getting it around my body as well. So both of those things are biasing our swings to make it more of a natural feel. If you change somebody's stance and setup around, you can really change the way that their swing is shaped. So let me take a crack at a couple here, and we'll come back to the track now. We'll look at the difference in the distance. I'm going to try to swing the same speed. We're right around 89 or 90 miles an hour or so. I'm going to do everything the opposite in conjunction with this higher tee. Right there, there's a good setup. Okay, here's a really awesome one to look at. That ball was absolutely crushed on the button. I'm gonna put the numbers on the screen again. This is crazy. It's almost exactly the same speed, around 89 miles an hour, but just by changing the tee height and then making those changes in the swing to match, it shows you what your potential is here. Able to drive the ball out to 262 yards. Now I'm hitting slightly from the inside, slightly up on the ball, about 3 degrees, and got a much higher launch angle, much lower rate of spin, and boy, that ball really jumped out there right down the middle instead of the big banana ball. Hey, let's take a look at both of those styles of swing in slow-mo. You can see a stark difference between the low tee and the high tee. Isn't it just astonishing though? Well, number one, the stark differences in shape between those two swings I made to match the tee height that I prefer, or maybe the swing we're making is causing us to find a tee height that we like. And just understand that the swing changes you'll need to make to get that additional yardage and consistency are eventually going to be matching you up with a much higher tee. You'll start craving a higher and higher tee as your swing shape changes. But the distance difference is astonishing as well. We went from 216 yards up to like 260, and I did that, in 3 swings. So we're looking at, 40 yards potentially of increased distance, having everything to do with the root cause is the tee height here. Now, of course, not right away you're going to get used to swinging at a height. It's not going to be a magic elixir or anything just by teeing it up higher. You'll have to do the work, of course. But you saw how I got that started. I got it started by changing the way I'm setting up to the ball, which is going to bias or make much more natural the way that I shape my swing. So when I'm here, it's just naturally I want to go around my body, more rounded, instead of upwards and steep, which also brings me down upwards and steep. Also with this setup, as I go around, it's a lot harder to come over the top. You can do it somewhat, but it's a lot harder to come over the top from that setup. So I want you to pay really particular attention to your setup in the next few weeks. You can check it in front of a mirror every day, or film yourself just going out in the yard or the park and making a few practice swings with your driver. Take a look at it and see if you're not creating that correct shoulder and hip tilt at address that will allow you to swing more shallow on the inside, hit up on it, and therefore require a higher tee. So hey, thanks for watching and supporting my channel. I hope you'll become a subscriber. I'd love to help you hit the ball longer and straighter down the fairway. Thanks a lot to Golf Development Complex in Moore Park, California for this beautiful scenery. And I hope to see you in the next video, and if not, I hope to see you longer and straighter down the fairway.